Hi, my name is Monica Williams. I'm the flutist for the Contra Costa Music Guild, and today's tutorial is about holding the flute and the note D. So if you haven't watched the tutorial about how to just make a sound with the head joints and the notes B, A, G with the one hand, I would suggest going back to those because I think that will help with this one. Okay, so let's talk about balancing the flute. As I mentioned in the previous video, holding the flute is probably the most difficult instrument to hold because we're the only instrument that holds it off to the side like this, and we can't see our fingers as we do it. Also, it is a cylinder round instrument and it's weighted so that it kind of wants to roll back in the hands this way. So we have to be very cautious when balancing the flute because, as we talked about in the other videos, if you don't line it up just so, it's not going to make the right sound. So let's start with holding the flute. First, I'm seated today since this is a band tutorial, but you can play the flute seated or standing. But you do want to kind of sit upright so that you're sitting straight up, not with your shoulders way back like this, like overarched, but so that you're kind of sitting up from your core, your spine is straight, your head is on top of your shoulders, and whenever you bring the flute to you, whether you're doing the one-handed or the two-handed, you bring your flute to you. I can't tell you how many flutists do this type of emotion where you meet your flute. No meeting your flute. The flute always comes to you. So let's talk about holding the flute. So as we talked about in the previous video, this was where the first finger went, the second finger, and the third finger. Let's remind ourselves about this first index finger on your left hand. It's so important because it is the first balancing point for the flute. This finger has to kind of curve around and wrap around this first key. If it doesn't do that, then I end up kind of in a position like this and I have no anchor to hold it. Now my fingers are going to have to really, really, really hold up the instrument kind of like it's in a claw, and that's what we don't want. We want no claws while playing the flute. We want our fingers to be nice and relaxed. So we're going to just one more time just kind of finger with one hand to G, which is 1, 2, 3, just kind of getting that natural neutral hand position here. Remember, my thumb is on the back key right here, and I'm going to leave it on this part, not this part. Okay, so this is the first hand. Now this right hand, I'm going to have us make a peace sign. And then you're going to take your thumb and kind of have your peace sign and your thumb meet each other, as if you were going to grab an object. Pretend like you're reaching for a Coke can or something out of the refrigerator. This is a great hand position for the flute. Notice I'm at a kind of a C position as I do that. But these two fingers, your peace sign and your thumb, are going to come around the flute, and they're going to hit the last 3 keys before your foot joint here. So the 1, the 2, and the 3. And my pinky is going to be up in the air for now for this note, but it would go on this key right here, which is called an E flat key. So a D fingering is with your first finger up and your pinky on the end down. Before we even try and play this, let's make sure that we're in the right positioning here. So if you did this right, your thumb should be about in between your 2 fingers. Some people are a little bit off to the side like this, some people are a little bit here, but most or majority for normal size hands are really right between these 2 fingers. This is going to help you balance the flute because, as we talked about, if your fingers are if you're balanced, your fingers are going to be able to move freely. I'm going to be able to hold the flute correctly, and I'll get the best tone. Okay, so the D, let's remind ourselves. First finger up and last finger up. So it's kind of like opposites, right? And this pinky up in the air is up in the air too. That eventually it will go down in this key. So the fingering is this D. Before we even play it, let's actually take and actually do some stretching just to kind of balance it. I wanna kind of just keep our elbows upright and just bounce the flute a little bit like this. Make sure it's not falling out of your hands. Make sure that this index finger is wrapped around, that it's staying here. Make sure that this thumb doesn't come forward and these keys come forward or they're like back like this. We don't want anything like that. We want this nice natural positioning. Notice my fingers are not over the edges of the keys. They're right on top of the keys. The pads of my fingers, you can see where my hole is, are resting on that top of the key, not over here, not way back here, right like this. Okay, and just do a couple little bit more bounces. Okay. Once you get the comfort of this, we want to begin to take the flute up to us, remember, not the other way around. And find this place where your lower lip is resting on the lip plate. And then begin to blow. A D is middle. It's going to be higher than the B, but not too high. You try a couple. Okay, now let's try a couple in a row. And you don't have to use the tongue yet. You can even just use a P motion. Okay. So I'm kind of holding my finger back here. My pinky's out of the way so you can see where the keys are down. But really your pinky should be natural and neutral here as well, with the first finger close to the keys. Now, what I suggest doing when you first begin is put together the flute, get your D's fingered, and literally just come and pick the flute up and see if you can get the tone right away. Then put it down. As silly as this sounds, this is a great exercise because we want to get the sensation of how it feels to hold up our flute. Notice my elbows are relaxed against the side of my body, not way up like this, nor are they coming over back here, nor am I resting on the back of my chair like this. They're kind of up, holding and supporting my flute, but not overextended. Okay, again a D. Again. Then put it down. Okay, and then I would repeat this exercise several times until you feel like you got a position. I often tell my students, see if you can do that 10 times in a row. Play a D, put your hands down, come back to that same place, see if you can find the sound in the fingers of that D. And this balancing, I can't stress how crucial this is going to be to your success as a flutist. So, tune in to the next episode where we're going to talk about articulations, which are how we're going to begin the sounds with the ta, ta, ta in order to define the beginning of the sound.